I think artificial intelligence will shape the future of work in that 1-2 punch. The first one, making our existing stuff much more efficient and allowing us to drive skilled people up the value chain. And then the second one, opening up these whole new scenarios that we haven't had space to even think about yet. Well, I think the hardest part of that answer is going to be keeping it short. But I'd like to think about this, that the ultimately properly implemented AI solutions are all about driving greater efficiency in work and reaching that kind of tipping point with efficiency that can be transformative. So I think the first part of this is the things that we do already in work, when we can do them far more quickly and cheaply, that can open up whole new avenues of innovation to expand our job roles. So for example, one historic example would be, once upon a time, if you remember accountants, they used pen and paper ledgers. They were slow. It was highly skilled by these accountants to be able to do that, but it was slow and it was error prone. Then along came computers and spreadsheets and accounting software. And now the accountants, not only are they more productive, they're also less prone to make errors because you have that error checking. And, as a result, accountants, the role of an accountant has become more important and more powerful within companies. And this is just existing job roles being made more efficient. And I think, with AI across the board, if you think about job roles that you have, whether are tasks that are inefficient, whether are things that where we can, like I said, make them more efficient, there's definitely a low-hanging fruit there for AI to be a part of that. But then beyond that now then opens up the new opportunities that weren't previously feasible, maybe because of lack of efficiency, maybe because it just wasn't feasible to be able to do these types of jobs. And I think, that's the second great wave where AI will be able to help in industry. And, it's ideating what those things are is where I think we'll be able to provide great value. I always like to think about it in terms of this as being the third great wave, technology wave in my career. The first was the advent of the internet. And if you think about before the internet, even companies like Google, the thought of a search engine to be able to find information was just, nobody really could think in those terms until there was an internet. And then the second great wave was the mobile first economy. And it's like, until that came along, things like Uber, the idea of if you wanted to get a taxi, you had to stand on a street corner with your hands raised in the hope that they would stop. But now you can actually schedule them, you can book them, you can know how much it's going to cost, you can let people know where you are. And that's revolutionized a business in a particular way, and it brought about a whole new class of business. So I think artificial intelligence will shape the future of work in that 1-2 punch. The first one, making our existing stuff much more efficient and allowing us to drive skilled people up the value chain. And then the second one, opening up these whole new scenarios that we haven't had space to even think about yet. I think first and foremost, don't get caught in the hype. There's so much hype out there, and both positive and negative hype, right? It's hard to go onto social media nowadays without some tech bros out there showing you how, with a simple prompt, you can turn your business around, or you can make a whole new business, or you can become a gazillionaire using GPT. There's also negative hype where it's going to destroy your business, it's going to destroy your economy, it's going to take over the world, all of these kind of things. And I think first and foremost is, try to figure out the signal amongst all of that noise. And I think, education and trial and error and working with the technology and understanding the technology is the first part of that. And it's my belief that you really need to go deep with the technology to understand exactly how to apply it for your business and your domain specific knowledge, how you can apply that along with AI technology to come up with new and unique solutions or better solutions for what you already do. And I think the good news around that is it's actually easier and cheaper than ever to be able to go deep. Like in the past, like with I spoke earlier on about the advent of the internet and then the advent of the mobile first economy. It's like, 30-ish years ago when the internet started becoming mainstream, it was the ability to get the skills to be able to be good at it was very difficult and very, very expensive. Now I think that has turned on its head, and relatively little effort, relatively little skill, relatively little expense in investment and tools is needed for you to be able to go deep, to understand how AI technologies work. And so I think, there's a great opportunity there, and that would be the advice that I would give: is invest in those skills, and invest in people who understand your business domain as well as these skills, so that they can mesh these two things together. Look, one story that I'll tell is I once worked on a project with a TV show, and it was a reunion of a TV show for like celebrating the 25th anniversary. And we generated AI. We generated scripts using some transformer-based AIs that I created. This is pre-ChatGPT, and a lot of the actors were afraid because they'd only ever seen the hype. And one of the actors in particular, once he started understanding the technology and once he started seeing how this thing worked, he actually was able to bring his expertise as an actor along with the new expertise that he gained about how AI worked, to ideate a whole new business plan and a whole new business idea. And it was a case of, he was shared that for somebody like him, auditions for shows are something that he has to do. And going in blind to an audition is very difficult, particularly if it's a sci-fi show or a horror show, that there tends to be a lot of technobabble, as they call it. It's new languages made up to describe things within that fantasy world. And so going in blind to try and read technobabble scripts is very difficult. But he was like, now I could, with an AI or with a script generator like the one that we had created, I can actually produce scripts like this so I can practice ahead of time. It will be different technobabble, but I'll be building up the muscles to be able to go into these auditions better prepared than I was. And I think that's a great example of what I'm talking about. Is like, here's somebody from a field that's not at all adjacent to technology, but once he was able to gain awareness of how the technology worked, that he could mesh his domain-specific knowledge with the technology-specific knowledge and start coming up with whole new business ideas. And that's what I'm very passionate about with businesses, to help you do that. So it's like, what is it that you do? How is it that this can help? I think the first biggest challenge is the hype cycle that I was talking about earlier on. So that once getting through that and not being led astray by that is a challenge. It's hard to find the signal amongst the noise. I think the second part of that then would be that it does require a very different mindset than old school engineering. And it's when you understand that mindset, that when with AI you're not writing code that's going to execute directly, and then that code isn't going to, for example, implement the business logic of your business domain. Instead, you're training a model, and then that model is going to make predictions based on input data. It's very much a different mindset. So it's getting over that mindset, equipping your staff to understand that, equipping your staff to trust that process I think that's going to be a challenge. It's not an insurmountable challenge. And going back to my earlier points, that I think the staff and the folks within your business who have domain knowledge of your business will begin to realize that this will actually make them more powerful and move them up the value chain, as I call it. So it's managing that process is going to be a challenge, but it's like I said, it's not insurmountable, and the value of doing it is just wonderful. Yeah, so definitely one of the most impressive uses was the avoiding food waste that I was talking about earlier on. I thought that one was really cool. I think in a similar vein, it's the most impressive use cases to me are the ones where it's a challenge that was previously insurmountable is now made possible, or possibly even easy through the use of AI and machine learning, which then kind of puts you into a whole new area of being able to expand your business or go into new businesses, right? The food wastage one I spoke about earlier, the actor that I spoke about earlier is another one. Another story that I'd share is, this one isn't exactly a business one, but it could be, is there's a project that I worked on called Project Gameface, if you go Google for it. And the background story of this one is that it's a person who's permanently disabled, unable to interface with his computer, except through very, very expensive equipment like head tracking mouse and that type of thing. He is a live streamer. He streams like games and all of that kind of stuff. And his connection to the world was through his computer. And his mental health came because of, was greatly assisted by his connection to the world. Unfortunately, his house burned down right while he was live streaming, and he lost everything. And his story came to me actually through the actor that I mentioned earlier on, who was a friend of his, and was wondering if there's anything that could be done here. The difficulty was that one thing to raise money to buy new equipment for him, but it was another thing to find out that this very expensive equipment, like for head tracking mouse and stuff like that, the companies that created that no longer supported it. So it would be very difficult and even more expensive to find replacement equipment. And then this replacement equipment required people to configure it specifically for him, because everybody's movement is different when they can only move their head or parts of their face to be able to control a computer. So we thought, can AI and machine learning help there? And the answer was yes, it could. And it was not just possible, it was actually relatively simple, because there's a lot of models out there that have been built for tracking points on the face. So you can do things like augmented reality masks or trying on makeup or things like that. And we realized it was actually very simple for us to repurpose those models to turn that into mouse control. So now we were actually, instead of spending thousands of dollars on equipment that can break down, we're able to use free models and build an application that we open sourced and we've donated to the community so that people can pick that up and run with it and maybe build a business around that. And by doing something that, like I said, it was previously very, very difficult or very infeasible, that was now made very easy using AI and machine learning. And I think those are the type of applications that I find really, really useful and really exciting, because they, business, we love to expand, and these are opening up whole new ways that you can expand your business given domain knowledge.